Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today, where we have Howard Levine, the founder and owner of Diamnet, with extensive history within our beautiful industry. Howard has previously been at H. Chalfin, Europills, and we're delighted that he can join us today. Just throughout Howard's presentation, on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see the chat section. So throughout the presentation, any questions that you have, please feel free to post them in there, and Howard has kindly agreed to answer any questions that we have at the end of today's presentation. So Howard, welcome.
Hi guys.
And over to you.
Right, I'm just going to share my screen because it seems the best way, so just bear with me. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Okay, entire screen share. Sorry guys, just bear with me. Gary, if you can tell me when you can see it.
Yeah, we will do. Just while Howard's getting that ready, we've got lots of people on this today, so thank you all again. If there is any questions following this presentation, yeah, it's all there, Howard.
You got it. Okay, right. Welcome. Thanks everyone for coming. Right, let's get through this. There's quite a lot to get through today. So firstly, let me just tell you who I am. For those of you that don't know, I was the sales manager for Yoco London. We'll get through this quite quick. I was a sales director for Chalfin of London, which probably a lot of you have heard of. We were one of the best manufacturers of diamond jewellery in the UK. I spent 2 years at Gems One, which is an Indian jewellery manufacturer. And then I came back to Chalfin as managing director for 2.5 years. And then I left because the business has changed. And I started Diamnet to help retailers fight against what is happening online. Today, we're not going to talk about so much about the online itself. We're going to talk about how you sell diamonds. And this is a presentation I've done a lot of times before, just a version of. But where I said this is sales training done differently, this could be seen as not diamond training done differently. This could be seen as sales training, sorry, and how you use diamond training to make sales. Let's think about it. People buy from people they trust. And when a customer comes into your shop, you've got to gain their trust. To gain their trust, you've got to tell them something they don't know. Now, I brought this up because if you don't know, this is Morpheus from The Matrix. And he's just about to tell Neo, Keanu Reeves, that everything Keanu Reeves knows or Neo knows in his life is a complete lie. And he has to gain Neo's trust. When he gets his trust, Neo is going to do anything that Morpheus asks of him. And if he doesn't gain his trust, the whole of humanity is going to die. So it's really important. So what does he do? Morpheus says to Neo, what if I told you something you don't already know? What we're going to look at today is, what do your customers know? And then what do you need to tell them to gain their trust when they come into your shop? So for example, here, there's no question your customers are doing their research online. They're finding out all the basic information, the 4 C's that they can by searching online. And when they come into your shop, if you don't accept that they have that information before they come in, you're not going to be giving them the right information to gain their trust. What we're going to look at now is, I'm going to tell you the way that I present the 4 C's to somebody that will be differently to the way that they read about them on a screen. And we've got to identify their needs. And diamond training itself, whether it's from De Beers, which is a great diamond training, or GIA or JET training, all those things like facet names and those crystal structures, and none of that matters to the potential buyer of a diamond. They're coming in and they want to know how to choose the right diamond from a list, or why they can't choose the right diamond from a list without your help. And that's what we want to try and get across, is how the retailer can really help the customer. So we're going to talk about the 4 C's. I'm going to try and flick through the first couple quite easily because everyone knows that. And then we're going to talk about them in a way that should hopefully gain trust from your customer. And everyone has to come up with their own kind of story at the end of it and their own version. But see what you think. Let's go through it and try. Understanding the 4 C's my way. Okay, so first C, we've got carrot, color, clarity, and cut grade. That's, you know, given everyone in this audience should know what that is. Let's talk about carrot first. It's amazing how many people think carrot is the size of the diamond, when we clearly know it's not the size of the diamond, it's the weight of the diamond, which means, for example, when you're talking to someone, you can tell them a 1 carat diamond should be 6.4 to 6.5 millimeters. Some diamonds that are 1 carat can be 6.1, some could be 6.7. They will be worse diamonds. They will not look as good as ones that are 6.4 or 6.5. No more to say on that at the moment. You don't have to go into technical details. That is a fact. Let's move on. 6.1 millimeter diamonds, the only thing to say is they will be cheaper. 6.7 millimeter diamonds will be cheaper. Let's move on to color. Color goes from D through to Z. The way we grade color is D through to H tends to be colorless, looking down on the diamond. So in a setting, in a mount, you really won't see any color draw from a diamond all the way down to an H. But what you will see is a brightness in the stone. So again, if your customer's looking at the difference, they will find it very hard to see the difference between a D and an E. But if you put a D next to an H, you'll see this brighter stone. When we turn the stones upside down and face down, which you're never going to do in a ring, from D through to F, you still won't see any color draw. But it's D through to F. It's the G that you start to see the first color draw, but only from behind. So we can start to give customers a little bit more advice at this point on color, where at first they might think they want a top color, and you might be able to advise them to go slightly down in color and get a bigger stone, or talk about one of the other criteria, but we'll go through. But this is all part of your educating the customer in a way that makes sense to them. Let's move on. Clarity. Now, we got through those two quite quick. Clarity is slightly more complicated and gives you slightly more chance to actually tell them something that they don't know. This is where we really start to win. What they're going to see online is something like a chart of this nature. They're going to see the IF, EVS, VS, SI, and I. And they're going to see differences, and they're probably going to think to themselves that maybe, well, flawless is, you know, very expensive. Maybe I need a VVS. This is our chance to say, well, not. This is how we actually grade diamonds. This is the way I was taught by GIA, and GIA say, as a grader, we should keep this word obvious at the top of our heads. Imagine this word obvious is floating over our heads all the time. And when I'm grading this stone, this word obvious is just hanging there waiting for me to choose it. So for example, we're going to look at this chart again, and this is how we actually grade diamonds, and it might make a difference to the grade that you end up choosing. So internally flawless is straightforward. The diamond grows and there's no flaws inside the diamond. It's very rare, it's very expensive and lovely. VVS means very, very slight or very, very small inclusion. As a diamond grader, I'm looking through the stone. This word obvious is over my head, and I'm looking through with my 10 times loop, and there's nothing obvious inside this stone. Immediately it has to be VS or VVS or better, but then I find an inclusion. And when I find that inclusion, the inclusion is no more than a pinpoint. Now the pinpoint is an included crystal. An included crystal is the most common type of inclusion that you get within a diamond. As a diamond is growing, another little crystal next to it gets swallowed up inside. And when you look through the rough, you see, or through the polished diamond, you see that little crystal inside. That's called a pinpoint if it is no bigger than the point of a pin through a loop. In reality, super, super hard to tell. even as a diamond grader, it's hard to find for a member of the public, for all intents and purposes. In reality, it's no worse than flawless, but on paper, it's not flawless, and it's cheaper than flawless. Next grade down, we've got is VS for very slight inclusion. Now, again, this word obvious is hanging over me, and I'm deciding, is it obvious? No, it's not. If it's not obvious, great. When I find the inclusion, it's more than a pinpoint. If it's more than a pinpoint, it can't be VVS. So immediately, not obvious, more than a pinpoint, VS inclusion. It could be a needle, which is a little inclusion that's the sort of shape of a little needle. It could be a cloud, which is a group of pinpoints, for example. It could be a black mark, but point is, it should not be obvious, and it has to be more than a pinpoint. Next grade down is SI, slight inclusion, small inclusion. Again, now, this word obvious comes in. To me, as a diamond grader, when I look through this stone, the inclusion was obvious. It could be small, it could be to the side, or it could be big, but the point was it was obvious to me as a diamond grader. So I gave it an SI grade. Now, we're not going to talk about included. They are, H. Samuel's commercial stones. It's obvious they're full of inclusions. Don't worry about that. Let's move on from here. Let's just talk about what it really means. A diamond grader. Why do we, as the trade, know that some SIs and some VSs are good and some are bad? Let's take a slightly exaggerated but real example, okay? Let's say I'm a diamond grader and Thursday night, I have a massive row with my wife. You've got to be careful how you present this to your customers that are potentially getting engaged at this point, because it could be quite embarrassing. But point is, it happens, and I'm a diamond grader, big row with my wife. We've gone to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't get any sleep. I stayed awake till 6 o'clock in the morning thinking about what's going on with my wife, and then got up at 6 o'clock, had a shower, got to the office on Friday morning, and I'm tired. And I've got my stones, and I'm grading my stones, and I get to the last stone on a Friday afternoon, and I'm looking through this stone, and I can't see an inclusion. And then suddenly, do you know what? There's a black inclusion, and it's on the table, but with all the facets and my tiredness, just didn't see it. It wasn't obvious. I'm going to give it a VS grade. And we all know there are VS stones out there with black inclusions. Let's take it away. Diamond grader, I just had a fantastic weekend. I was in my pajamas all day. I got up late on Sunday morning. I never even changed. I stayed in my pajamas. I went to bed early Sunday night, and I've got up Monday morning, and I'm buzzing with excitement. I've gone into work. I've grabbed my Starbucks, and the first stone that comes to me has a small white mark to the side under one of the side facets, the star facets. And you know what? Because I'm so buzzing, I saw it immediately. Because I saw it immediately, it was obvious. That word obvious comes into play. If it's obvious, I'm going to give it an SI inclusion. So now what we have here is two stones. We have an SI with not so obvious inclusions, and we have a VS with really a black mark right in the center of the stone. If you don't believe me, look at these. Do you see this stone here? You're going to have to take my word for it, but I promise you, this is an SI stone. There's inclusions down here, small little white marks. There's an inclusion up here, a cloud, but this was graded as an SI stone. Look at this now. This was graded as a VS stone. And if you look through Diamnet and you look at my listing, you can see the videos of stones, and you'll see this multiple times. But look at this, that black mark in the middle, and from the back, look how you can see it repeat in the facets. This is a VS stone. So what we've now got is an SI and a VS, and I can tell you, I would prefer the SI stone. And the SI stone might not be the cheapest SI available in a listing environment, but it's still cheaper than the VS. This is starting to now give you some doubt, potentially, on purely using a list. If you purely go by VS against an SI and you think, oh, that VS is actually a good value stone and that SI is a bit expensive, look at the stones. That is a better stone, and that will save you money going for that one over that one. you want to get that message across to your customers. Do they still think they can understand everything they need to know just looking at a diamond list? Or is there an advantage in coming into the shop and talking to a member of staff and potentially seeing the stones before you buy them? This is what we're trying to get at. Now, let's carry on and we'll go back to that in a minute. The last of the 4 C's is classified as cut. These are what you normally get presented on the GIA chart, on the IGI chart, online. They talk about cut and you see round, princess, emerald, Asher, marquise. This is not the cut. This is the shape. In reality, cuts are the way the stone is polished, and every single one of these stones, aside from an emerald or an Asher, are cut with triangles. Every facet is a triangle of sorts. When you come to an emerald or an Asher, they're straight lines, and that is the cut. So what do we really mean by cut? I hope you all like that picture from Pink Floyd album cover. Everyone seems to know it. Doesn't matter how old or how young you are. Dark Side of the Moon. And what you've got is a prism, and you've got white light coming into the prism and being split up into colors. If you remember in physics, if you don't remember Dark Side of the Moon, physics, we had a prism and you see white light come in, it would bounce around and it would break up into colors. What we're looking for on a diamond is sparkle. Sparkle comes when white light comes in through the top of the diamond, bounces around those mirrors that have been created by the facets, and the angles and the shapes are just right that the white light bounces back out through the top. I didn't put it on here, but you've all seen those pictures. And again, this relates back to the size of stones and the carat weight, where if the stone is a 6.7 mil 1 carat, it's very wide and very shallow. And what you get is the white light comes in and falls out the bottom. And the same with a small stone, it's much darker, it seems to be, because the light is not coming back out through the top. What you want is ideal proportions. If we come to here, this is really what we mean by cut. And people don't appreciate this. This is what we mean. Look at the star lengths, look at the table size, the crown angle, the pavilion angle, the girdle thickness. All of these things make up how much sparkle you're going to get from that stone. After all, why do we have a diamond? Why is a diamond so expensive and so precious and so desired? It's because no other stone on the planet will sparkle like a diamond if a diamond has all its facets and proportions correctly made. Now, you look here, all the different ones are available. We don't have to, with your customers, there's no need to talk about specifics and what the facets are called and things. It's all about the fact that they can be different. An individual polisher can change each one of these facets and these angles as they see fit. They don't make all the facets perfect. And if you appreciate that, if you can understand what I'm saying, then I presume the obvious question would be, why not? And you know what, when I took over Chalfont, the first thing I needed was stock. I needed diamonds because I had to make a range. Brian had sold most of the stock we had and I needed to make a new range of diamond jewelry. So I went to our main diamond supplier, and our most trusted diamond supplier knew Chalfont, and they knew how fussy we were going to be on diamonds, and I was supposed to carry on that tradition. And they brought me over from Israel over 2,000 stones, pre-selected for what they thought Chalfont me would like. From the 2,000 stones, I was able only to buy 125 stones after looking through them. And this is our best supplier. Every single supplier that came to see me over the last, I don't know, 10 years has told me they are the best supplier. And when I tell them how fussy we are and how a boutique company we were with Chalfont, they would say, do you know what, Howard, that's exactly us. We are the best cutters. We only cut good stones. It's not true. I'll show you why. This is my favorite phrase that I like to use to explain this. A good diamond cutter does not cut good diamonds. A good diamond cutter's job is to maximize the profit from any piece of rough. Okay, if a diamond cutter is constantly making the best diamonds, they will be losing too much weight and not maximizing the profit, and they will get in trouble for it. They will not be thanked by the diamond company. And it's up to the buyer to find the right diamonds that are the best diamonds. Hence why your customers need your help, because the things written on the certificate really don't tell you if the diamond is full of life, full of sparkle. That's what we used to call it at Chalfont, was life. We'd be looking for that little bit of something special in the diamond. I'm going to go through this now and just prove it to you. Okay, I'm going to prove to you why a diamond cutter doesn't produce the best diamonds. This is the bit where maybe you haven't seen before, maybe some of you have. This is in a diamond factory in India. It all starts with the rough. Here they're starting to split the rough into grades. The most experience of the people in the factory are the people that do this, because they can see from the rough with a loop exactly what they think they're going to get from that rough, and they start to split it up like this. From here, there was a company in Israel called Sarin, and they introduced a machine called a Galaxy. This machine enables any polisher to take a piece of rough and to tell what they should do with that rough. In the old days, in Antwerp or in Israel or wherever, you'd have, in effect, an artist that would be using a loupe or a microscope, and they'd be taking a piece of rough, and they'll decide by plotting exactly what they should do with that rough. But now what we have is a machine that does it for you or helps you. And it enables people to be trained that aren't necessarily artists. I'm not saying it's easy, but they're not necessarily artists, and it helps them to decide what to do with the rough. And if you look at, I think it was De Beers, I read in one of their handbooks that in 2008, there were 4,000 people employed in Israel in cutting and polishing, and in 2012, there was 200. And the same sort of thing has been replicated in Antwerp. There's in India now, I believe it's because of these machines. In India, there are over 800,000 people employed in cutting and polishing diamonds, or there certainly was before. Unfortunately, this COVID problem took over. So the way this machine works is they take the rough, and each piece of rough over a certain size is given to one person for 2 days to prepare what they're going to do with that rough. And you see here a piece of rough on a little spindle. This spindle with this piece of rough is then submerged in a machine, and it takes, we're in the Galaxy, and it takes kind of like a CT scan of the diamond, showing all the inclusions. And you can see it here as a video, and you'll see the way it shows. You can see the way it turns, and all the inclusions are showing. There, you can see it clearly now. From here, why isn't it going to the next slide? There we go. That's what it then produces. It takes that 3D scan and it turns it into a 3D computer model. And here you can see the model itself. You can see here the diamond. This is a piece of rough, and you can see they're planning on cutting 2 diamonds from that piece of rough. Again, I've got another short little video. You can see this guy sitting here. He's a plotter, and you can see the piece of rough he's working on. He's planning on getting 3 diamonds from that rough. You'll see it turn in a second. He can turn it. That's quite interesting to see that. And you can see what he's trying to do is absolutely maximize the profit from that piece of rough. His job is not to produce the best diamonds. And if you see here, for example, these are 2 different diamonds. What the plotter has the ability to do at this stage is with their cursor to literally grab any point and any facet and extend it and expand it and move it, so they can change the angles and then see what it does to the potential profit from the stones that are going to be created. So they could grab the bottom of this diamond and fill some of that empty space there, because every time they polish a facet and they take away a little bit of diamond, they're lowering the carat weight. look here, this was actually in the factory I was in, they said I could photograph anything I wanted except for the screen where the pricing was, which I did without them seeing, although it's so small that you can't really see it. So I don't suppose it really matters. But what's happening here is the guy has made a change to the screen here, and he's looking here because the software is telling him what the software thinks that stone would be worth. And then the software will give him a different combination of stones from that rough and then tell him what they think it will be worth from that rough. So it's all the time you've got to keep in your mind and get across to your customers that the quality is not what they're after. It's all about profit, which makes perfect sense. The one thing, again, that people don't realize is this word gamification. It's being used more and more across all sectors, but I bet you didn't realize it was being used in diamond cutting. Let me explain. This is a factory in India again, and here we have cubicles with 3 people in each cubicle. And the way I was told was the guy in the middle is the most experienced plotter of the 3. There's always a guy overseeing the room back here somewhere who's in charge of the whole room. But these guys are given their piece of rough and they're told they've got 2 days to decide what to do with that rough. And the guy over here will plan for 2 days, and then he will then tell the guy in the middle or suggest, this is what I'd like to do with my rough. This is what I think is going to maximize the profit. This guy in the middle then has a chance to disagree. And if he says, no, actually, we can do this, widen it a bit here, change this angle, change this, and we can get 1 point of diamond weight more or 2 points more, then if he does disagree, it goes to the adjudicator of the room. The guy overseeing the room will decide who's correct and who's wrong, and he will give out points based on that. So these guys' structure of their bonuses is based on this. So if the guy in the middle was correct, he will gain a point, and the guy on the left of him will lose a point. This is all to ensure that these guys are absolutely out to maximize the profit of the rough. Let's move on quickly from here. What we have now is the lasers. So once the guy's decided what to do with the plotting, the stone's been decided what to do. The first thing to do is to, if there's 2 stones, for example, you're going to make from 1 rough, first thing to do is cut it in half. And to cut it in half or into 3, they're going to use lasers. Now, this is a quick picture of an old laser machine that they had, and it went from saws, remember? So originally we had saws, and the wastage on the cutting would be the thickness of the saw. What we have here with this laser was a 2 micron loss in cutting the stone with the laser. What we then have is these machines underneath, which are the new machines, which mix, I think it was oxygen or nitrogen, one of the two with the laser, and it only has a 1 micron loss, and it allows them to cut in 2 planes rather than just 1 plane. So they cut, before they could just cut 1 and then they'd have to move it and cut again. This one allows you to cut a V shape out. These machines cost $275,000 each, and one factory I went to had 76 machines. That's pretty big investment, changing your machines for 1 micron of loss difference. But here's another video just of the cutting process. You'll see how the laser takes time to cut through these diamonds. Don't forget, a diamond is the hard.
Oh, Howard, I think we've lost you there. David, who's from our marketing team, is sat in the background. David, can you hear me and see me? Thank you. So whilst we get Howard back on, I'm sure he won't be long. I have to put a small disclaimer in. My wife, who's a nurse, has just gone off to work. So if at any point during this my 4-year-old walks in, then apologies for that. But there's not much I can do. Hope everyone's keeping safe and well and finding it informative. As we touched on at the start, if you've got any questions, then please post them up. While you've got me, if there's any questions that you want to ask me in in the chat while we wait for Howard to come back, then please feel free. Oh, Mirror, I will just grab him for you. Bear with me. Mason, come here. I have to excuse the look on his face. He's just had some ice cream, so as you can imagine, he's covered in chocolate. Come in. Here he is. It's my little one, Mason. We've both got matching haircuts, as you can see. The wife's been doing it. He has, Sarah, hasn't he, since the last time you've seen him? Are you going to wave? They're asking you to wave. No, wave. There we go. Right. Oh, thank you, Lucy. I've seen a question in there that someone asked what my job role is. So my job role is the partnership manager. So I try to have conversations with members, non-members, just see how we can benefit them, reach out to everyone within our industry and maximise the benefits that we have through the NAJ. There's lots of benefits, which you can see from our website. And David, could you just post the member benefit page, just the link to that, just so everyone can see it. But no, it's been very strange time during these last few weeks, but it's also been, I think, a great opportunity. Roger, I love your question. I had to. I've actually got shorts on. I'm not scared to say that. I think everyone's been doing that in video calls. So I've got t-shirt, green shirt, and shorts on. I'm not going to show you. I think that's not to be seen on camera. But no, during this period that we've been through, it's been great for this industry to come together. I think it's fantastic. Sarah, we're going to have to mute you in a moment. It's been fantastic that everyone's coming together. We've got the Jeweller Support Network, which is the NAJ, CMJ, Holden, Goldsmiths, the Women's Jewellery Network have all come together for the greater good of the industry and are trying to give as much advice as possible. So again, David will file the link in there to the Jeweller Support Network, and everyone can take a look when you've got a few minutes. We've been running some great education incentives. So for those of you that don't know, you can currently, for the next week, and then we're going to close it, enroll on a free Jet Essentials module. You get to choose which module you want to cover. It's all online, it's all free of charge. So if you do get time, again, just explore the website. I will also put up in this chat my mobile number and email address. So if anyone has got any questions for me that they don't want to pop up in here, then please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. There we go. What else have we got going on at the moment? Just having a look through this chat. So every week we've also been running a what we're referring to as a coffee break. Mondays and Wednesdays at 11 o'clock. Just getting together. There's no sort of preset topics of what we're discussing. It's just an opportunity for people to get together and share their thoughts, their feelings, what they're potentially worried about, what they're excited about. We're obviously seeing a lot and having a lot of conversations at the moment about opening up. Lucy, we've had around 25 people at each of the coffee breaks. So it's quite nice, it's small, it's informal. Oh, we're back.
I didn't know you'd lost me because I'm sharing my screen.
Oh, Howard. Well,
what point did you lose me?
You're back. So I've been filling in for you. I've been telling everyone how wonderful you are. I haven't shared any late night bar stories, you'll be pleased to know.
At what point did you lose me? Because I've no idea with sharing the screen.
2 seconds. It was on your second video that you were showing. That's where we seem to lose you.
The second video was, okay, sorry everyone. I really didn't notice. I've just been talking and talking and talking. Second video would have been, let's go back and yeah, the laser cutting part. the laser part. So as the laser's
Laser
cutting.
cutting. Yes.
All right. Sorry, everyone, to go over it again.
I will leave you, but I'll be in the background should you need us, Howard.
Okay. Right, was that here? I bet it's going to start from the beginning. Let me just flick through these really quickly. Sorry, guys, I had no idea that I had done that. I hope I've got your interest till now anyway, but first video, second video. So the lasers.
Yeah, David just said that it's all uploaded. If you click that bottom tab of the three, or it's up to you if you're almost there.
I'll click it and go through, because then at least I know what's going on.
Okay.
So let's go back to. So if I now go Diamnet. Right, can everyone see that? Is that all right, Gary? So where we're talking about is from here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, so let me backtrack a bit. So these are the laser machines. So once, let me just get my train of thought. Once we've gone through this, so the rough diamond has been plotted. These guys have decided what to do with that rough diamond, and it then needs to be cut in half. So you've got a piece of rough, and first thing to do is, if you're going to turn it into 2 diamonds, is to cut it in half, or into 3 diamonds, cut it into thirds. So what you've got is your laser machines. I don't know if you heard this before, but I'm going to say it again. It's only one slide, but this is the old type of machine. This is the new type of machine underneath it. The top machine had a 2 micron loss in the laser cutting process, and the bottom machine had a 1 micron loss in the cutting process. And of course, it was able to cut into 2 planes, so you could cut a wedge out of a diamond rather than just cutting straight across. These bottom machines cost $250,000 each, and yet one factory I went to in India had 76 machines. That's pretty exceptional. So if we just go on to the next slide, you'll see the way that the diamonds are cut. No, the video is still not working from here. All right, let's skip through it. The point is, I always thought I always thought that a laser would slice through a diamond like a lightsaber or something, but actually it doesn't. It takes time. There's a massive ball of light that comes out, and that ball of light takes time, and it cuts through the diamond. Once the diamond is cut in half, what you're presented with is this plot. Now, I was just walking through the factory on a tour, and they just spat out from the machine this particular plot for this particular diamond, and I just took a photograph and walked away. And it was when I got home that I started to realize what this picture actually showed. And if we just zoom in a little bit, you'll see. Look at this pear shape, and look at the facets on this pear shape. Now, this could be, I mean, we can see little facets on the side, so it's not a D-flawless, but let's just ignore the sides. This could be a D-flawless diamond, but look at the way it's cut. Look at the shape of the stone, the symmetry. Look how many extra facets there are here, over this side here. Look at the shape of the table. Now, look underneath here, on the underneath of the stone, the extra facets that have been put in. Why is that done? It's done because it's all about maximizing profit and weight, and nothing to do with quality. Now, on a diamond list, let's just, for argument's sake, this was a DVS. I don't care if it's a VS or a VVS, this is not going to be a nice stone. It's not going to sparkle. And at the end of the day, this will probably show as, let's call it a DVS. It would be a cheap DVS on the list, but it's not going to be nice. Now, you can't tell that easily from the certificate itself. And certainly the member of public, your customer at home, will not be able to tell the difference between a good stone or a bad stone with these type of grades. So this is where it's all worth coming in to see you. look here, this is near the end of the presentation, but the actual polishing is still done by hand. Here's a polishing wheel. You can see here, this little pot here, this little grey pot here, I think it was, there's a suction underneath here. And if you put the diamond on a stone wheel and spin the wheel, you're going to polish the stone and not the diamond, because of course the diamond is the hardest material on the planet. But so what they do is when you're polishing, there's a suction under here, and the suction suctions up the diamond dust. The diamond dust is sent away, it's processed, and then comes back as a paste. They put the paste in this tub, and then the tub, they put it onto the wheel, and that's how you polish a diamond. Now, there's another video here of them polishing a diamond, and what we'll do is I'll show you it afterwards if I can, if it doesn't work, but let's just give it a try. Sure enough, it's not going to work. So anyway, that was the last one. What it actually shows is a guy, you'll see, you can't really see it here, he's got a little like handheld clamp, and he puts the rough into that clamp, and there's a little scope, and he holds it on the machine, on the wheel, and he looks through the loop, and then he holds it again, and then he looks through the loop, and what he's actually doing is trying to match this. There's no initiative or skill or artistry left for the guy that's polishing this stone. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but it can be trained, because he is there to follow this precisely. And that is why, again, move to the next one, that is why a good diamond cutter does not cut good diamonds. It's not their job. Bringing this part to a close, just to summarize just from the beginning again, it's all about gaining trust of your customer when they come in. We've got to get them in the door, but when they come in the door, if you just tell them what they already know, so if you go through the 4 C's in exactly the same way that they would have read it online, why are they coming into you? They're not going to have any extra trust that you're the expert. You've just read what they've read online, and they will just assume, well, if that's all I'm going to get told in a shop by an expert, well, I can do it online myself. And your customer has to leave the shop knowing that when they came in, it was worthwhile. The information that you gave them was more than they got online, and doesn't contradict what they got online, but it does explain why they came into you. And the ability to choose diamonds and show diamonds in the store is a massive advantage you have if you can get the customer to come into the shop first. And again, just points to aim for. You have to make the customer understand that the certificate does not tell you everything you need to know, and it is better to see the stone before purchase where possible. This is your reason for being a retailer, in my opinion, and it gives you what we would call the in-store experience. They can do everything they need to do online, but when they come into you, you're able to offer more than that. That's basically the presentation. Gary, can I bring you back in? Gary, are you there? Yay, it's coming.
Very much.
I hope that makes some sense. I don't know if I can try and share the screen and show you that last video of the guy polishing. That's quite a nice one. But I hope everyone gets the message that there is a reason to be a retailer with a high street shop. And well, let's see what people say and what questions there are.
Definitely. So I'm just scrolling through the questions now, but I've just while I'm looking at that, I've got a question for you. So
yeah,
Diamnet refers to it as is a list in essence, but then in parts of your presentation you refer that the customer or the retailer shouldn't necessarily be buying from the list. How do you marry up them two concepts?
Look, the way I see it is, I spent years at Chalfont trying to train retailers like this on how to talk to their customers and how their customers shouldn't be buying from a list and so on. But you know what? Customers are buying from a list. They are looking online. You can't get away from the fact that your customer, the first thing they're going to do when they want an engagement ring, for example, is look online. And when they look online, they're going to be presented with a list with all that information, and they are managing to buy that way. Maybe some of it is because when they go into the shop, they're not presented with any other information, and it's as we said, you know, they're just getting told the same thing. But the point is, it's happening. So I wanted to give every retailer the ability to compete online. You've got to capture that customer's attention first. And to do that, you've got to offer them the tools that the other guys have. So if they have these lists, you have to have those lists. But at the same time, you need to promote the reason why they should come into the shop. Never put them off buying off your list. Obviously, you want to make the sales online. But you offer online, and then you say the best way is to come into the shop, and then you give them the reason why they would come in. But then you have to match it with the in-store experience. You have to make sure what you offer in store is everything that's offered online, plus the ability, plus everything that you're able to offer in store. And by having your own list and being able to access it in the store, and being able to ask for the stones on AppPro to then follow through with the customer, and being able to show them actual rings and sit them down in a nice environment, that to me is everything the internet offers plus everything the retailer offers, and that brings it all together. And if you look at, for example, 77 Diamonds, they have a showroom in Mayfair, they have other showrooms around the country, and they're very successful, and yet that's the way they do it. They bring the customer in from their online portal, and the customer sits with them in the shop, and they go through what's available on a list. And Blue Nile had, I know 2 years ago, they had at least 6 shops open in America, in shopping malls, to go through this same system. It's still using their online system, but giving the service that you can offer in a shop. It's combining the two. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. Total sense. I think
and
more now than ever with what we've all been going through, that emotional connection and when you are face to face with a customer is going to be so important and vital.
Well, this is let's face it, this is the most emotive purchase probably any customer is going to make in their life. And it's one of the most expensive purchases, probably the most expensive outside of a house or a car. And it's one they're probably going to keep longer than a house or a car. So I think most people would prefer to buy in a shop, but when they're not getting any reason to buy in the shop, there's more stock online, there's more choice of designs online, and all the information is online for them to see it. It's the obvious thing to do. What you have to do is match that, but you've got to show them why they would bother coming into you. And you've got to have that experience. The staff have to be trained, not only with what I've just presented, but the training from De Beers and Jet and GIA, it's all, and NHA, absolutely. It's massively important. They have to, when I was going back many years, I was in retail myself, but it was with hi-fi equipment, specialist stuff. And we went for training with Bang & Olufsen, if you've heard of them. And the one thing they had as we walked in the room, on the blackboard was a big sign, and it said, "Knowledge is power." And I'm sure you've all heard that many times. And knowledge is power. And no one will trust you if they think they know more than you do. So when they come into your shop, your staff and yourself have to know more about diamonds than the customer. And you don't have to spout it all out at one go. You don't just say it out, you know, let me tell you about everything. It's when they ask a question, you've got the answers. And you're only going to have that by doing the training. And it's the confidence that you get from training. All of that is massively important to make sales. So
we've got a few questions which we're going to go through. So Ian earlier posted in the chat, wants to throw the modern day cat amongst the traditional pigeons. In this day and age, isn't it time we started to put the 5th C first, care, its provenance and a guaranteed exploitation-free supply chain? Question mark.
Ooh.
Get your thoughts on that?
I would think that actually, personally, I don't think that is the one we put first. I think you've got to do all this first, but then that definitely comes into it afterwards. Today's customer or consumer is much more savvy towards where does the stone come from, you know, tell me a story about the stone. That all goes towards it, absolutely. But at the end of the day, people are buying something to wear on their finger. And just like they don't want to buy a horrible looking stone, if you explain it correctly, they will believe that. The provenance won't necessarily swing it. It's not like this is a really nice stone, this is a really poor stone, but this poor stone's got great provenance and we know where it comes from. That's not going to make you the sale. So I don't think it's the priority, but it is important today. It's definitely important today. And there's more and more things happening. It's going to change with tracer and all these things that are going to be showing where the stones come from on the certificates and things. So that's all changing. But I don't think you can get away from the fact that your customers coming into the shop to buy an engagement ring that they want on their finger that's got to look good. That's the first and foremost point of it.
Couple of people are asking if they can get access to your presentation. So from an NAJ standpoint, what we've live recorded this video, so it will be up on our website in the coming days. But I'm sure, Howard, if people wanted to physically get the presentation from yourself, then they can obviously contact you direct to try and obtain that.
Completely, absolutely happy to give it out. Yeah, no problem at all. And they'll see the videos that way. It'd be easier.
Right. Could you recommend where to buy diamonds for jewelry designer maker? That's from. Could you recommend where to buy loose diamonds for jewelry designer maker?
Well, I've got an obvious answer.
I was just queuing you up there. I was just setting you up.
Diamnet, look, thank you. Give me an opportunity to sell my service. That's not really what the seminar was about. But look, Diamnet as a listing has over 250,000 diamonds there. And we're basically an agent for the diamond dealers. So if you want to find the diamond and you want to find the best quality stroke price or whatever, register at Diamnet. It's free. So go to diamnet.co.uk, register. As long as I check that you're trade, because it's trade only, then you have access to all those diamonds. And if we can, credit check you, then we can actually send out APRO and the full service is there. So yeah, that's the best way to get diamonds, even for the designer maker.
Lucy asks a question. If the cutters follow the plot, who makes the plot?
The plot's made by the computer that's generated by the guys sitting at that desk for 2 days deciding how the best plot should be. Don't forget, going back to the presentation, when you saw 3 guys sitting there as plotters in a room and they've got a piece of rough for 2 days, and the piece of software, the Galaxy, basically will give them every different version of diamonds they can get from that rough, whether it's 1 big diamond with inclusions, whether it's 10 small diamonds or 3 medium-sized diamonds. That's going to be decided by the plotter seeing it on the computer, making a few changes, seeing how much the value will be, and then trying something else, and then seeing the value, and then trying something else and seeing the value, and at the end coming up with a solution. And that answer will be spit out as a plot. And that plot then goes down the line to the polishers and then it's turned into the finished diamond. So I hope that kind of answers that question.
Yeah, thank you. Final few questions. Sarah asks, which certificates do you personally prefer and feel are the most accurate?
I don't think there's any question that GIA will be the most accurate. It's the one that's recognized throughout the world. I was told once that if you take a stone that's, an old stone, a big stone, and it ends up in Christie's or Sotheby's, please tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I was told. And if it's got a GIA certificate, then it's presented in the auction as a GIA certified stone. If it's got any other certificate, it will be presented as an uncertificated stone. Now that even means IGI, and I've sold many IGIs that I think are really good stones. There's nothing wrong with IGI. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with HRD. I mean, EGL for sure is a definite step down in grade, but then they're cheaper. So what you're actually getting is really probably what you pay for. If it says it's a GVS, it's probably, you know, an H or an I color, and it's going to be an SI at best. But you're only going to pay for a GSI. It does get a little confusing for the customer, and you do have to be careful how you present those stones. Some retailers I find are very happy to sell whatever the certificate says, and on my list you'll see are all the certificates: EGL, IGI, GIA. But for me, it's about looking at the stone. Again, that's why the customer really should come to you. You know, the customer comes in, we sit down, we have a glass of champagne. It's all part of the experience. I show them designs, they try them on, they pick something they really love. Then we look at what's going to be the best diamond for you. So I talk to the customer and I say to them, do you know about colors? Let me explain about colors. You may have read something online, but let me talk to you about it. And I can physically show them colors with sample stones. And we decide with us that, you know, online they thought they might want a D or E, but actually when they're seeing them in the flesh, maybe a G or an H would still work really well and give us the ability to go for a bigger stone. And then when we get to that, we look at clarity and we go through the same process again and we talk through it. And then we end up on the diamond list. Now I suggest there's a big screen and you have the diamond list and you go through the stones together. And you know what? There happens to be an IGI stone up there that looks brilliant. Even on the video of the stone, it looks pretty good, but it happens to be an IGI. And underneath it, there's a GIA that's just a little bit more money, but it's a GIA. The best way is to get both of them in on AppPro. Get them in, show the customer, talk it through, and then you make a decision. And maybe the IGI is fantastic and it saves you money. So the certificate is important. We've sold loads of EGL certificates, which I never would have done at Chalfont, but we have since we started Diamnet. So it is about what the customer chooses at the end of the day, but they should be able to make an educated choice.
Yeah.
And when they're looking online, even from your site, if they buy online, let them buy whatever they want. It's, you know, this is the advantage of coming into the shop.
Another question from Anna, who's been looking at your synthetic diamond pricing online. What would be your prediction in the next few years? Do you expect the price to come down significantly?
That's the big argument at the moment with lab grown, is that the prices will drop, and I think inevitably the prices will drop a certain amount. I don't believe they will drop as much as some other people think they will drop. I think there's always going to be a market for it. I think natural diamond prices have actually come down a little bit recently, especially there's been a whole big hoo-ha with Rappaport because of diamond prices. But long-term natural diamonds, mined diamonds, will inevitably go up as the cost of mining goes up. That makes a place for lab-grown diamonds at a lower price point. If your customer comes in and what they can afford doesn't match their expectations, then why shouldn't you offer them another option? There was a seminar yesterday with 5 or 6 big US retailers talking exactly this about lab-grown and natural, and they all sell both. And their argument was exactly that, was, well, why don't you just offer both? Why shouldn't the customer have the choice? This is a real diamond, but it's grown in a laboratory. And this is a mined diamond that's taken billions of years to get here and is, you know, not being made anymore really by the earth. So the choice is then the customer's choice. We're all there as sellers to sell product. It's not for us to tell them what they should buy, but we just have to present it correctly with all the information. As far as long-term value goes, if the customer is being shown a lab grown, if they mention it about long-term value, then you can say you don't know what's going to happen long-term to the value. It is a man-made product. But at the end of the day, if someone comes in and buys a mined diamond and comes back 2 weeks later and wants to sell it back to you, you're not going to give them their money back straight away. You're going to give them a third of what they paid for it, maybe a half if they're really lucky. And why shouldn't it be the same for a lab grown? It's just, yes, the value might go down, but it's really not, shouldn't be a consideration at point of purchase. They're buying an engagement ring to wear on their finger. That's all you have to worry about.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I personally found that very informative, and I think even with the technical difficulties, I think nowadays it's absolutely fine. It shows that it's personal, and I think it's brilliant, and I can just see from all of the comments in the chat that everyone's found it extremely informative. And as we touched on earlier, if you want to get in touch with Howard directly to ask him any questions, we'll obviously review the chat box, and if we've missed off any questions, apologies for that. But either myself or Howard will come back to you with our thoughts, etc. So, Howard, thank you.
Pleasure, guys.
We will get the webinar up on the website in the coming days, so please keep a lookout. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend and enjoy the bank holiday on Monday here in the UK, and look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.